Welcome back, everyone, for another episode of Comeback Stories. I'm one of your co-hosts, Darren Waller. I'm joined by my guy, my friend, Donny Starkins. Donny, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. It's good to be here again. Good to see your face, as always.
Always, brother. I'm super excited for the guest we have on today. You know me, I love to create music, just listen to music, just the overall energy, anything that has to do with music. And we have an artist on today who is really seeing the fruits of his labor really start to come into fruition. And a lot of the listeners may know him as putting out an infectious single called Billie Eilish, but a man who has so much good work in his catalog and is really still just warming up. Love to welcome Armani White to the show. Armani, welcome, bro.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you creating time for us. What you been up to lately, man? What's going on in your life these days?
Man, I'm ducking from the sun. We've been, I take as much as, the time that I can when I'm home to just like sit down, work on some music, like be a human, play a video game or something like that. Cause I only get like 2 days out of the week to be home. Tomorrow we've headed out for another festival. And then I think after that we run in New York, Montreal, back to LA. So it's just, it's nonstop running.
Nah, I feel you, bro. I'm definitely want to dive in with you on how you stay human, because I face some of the same problems myself. But I'd love to just dive right into your story and start about growing up for you and what was growing up for you like. Where was it at, and just paint a picture for the people.
Yeah, no, I think we were the last kids of like that were outside. You know what I'm saying? Like we was like our generation was like the turning point of the internet kind of taking over people's lives. So like we spent our last couple of days just like being outside, like, getting in. The only time I wasn't outside, I was on punishment. And like those moments when I was on punishment was where I kind of learned how to work the internet, work MySpace, work Facebook and Tumblr or whatever it was at the time. So, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, I was just the little bad kid in the neighborhood that just couldn't stay out of trouble, and like everybody knew my parents. So anytime I did something, they told my parents, and I just get back right back on punishment.
I feel you, man. So you grew up in Philly, right? There's a lot of
West Philly.
There's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of different images of Philly. You got like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith getting out of West Philly and still representing. Mm-hmm. You got Meek Mill, you got Lil Uzi, and people paint a side of Philly that's tough, but they all love it and have a sense of pride about it. And I believe you do as well. Makes it so tough, but what do you love about it?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like the fact that it's so tough and the fact that we came up in this city, it kind of gives us that sense of pride to say, like, if you can make it out of here, you can make it anywhere. Or even if you can make it and stay in here, you can make it anywhere. Like, just because of like, it's a very uninviting city. Like if I could describe it in any way, like if you're not from here, it's like, all right, well, what you doing here? And that's kind of the mentality, the personality that just like the city has for you. But once you kind of get ingratiated into the culture, like it's a dope city. It's always something, some way to be a part of, something, just something going on in Philly. There's always something.
Are there any distinct memories of pain that you look back on early growing up as a kid that may have affected you in a way or affected the way that you just looked at the world or approached life?
Well, to be all the way honest, as much pride as I have for Philly, and just being from Philly, there was a big piece of my life that I had to just step away from Philadelphia, like because of all the trauma that I experienced in Philly, like, just growing up, being outside, like all the trouble that we got into, but also in 2006, there was a house fire when I was staying with my aunt. I was like back and forth between my aunt's house and my mom's house. And there was a house fire that my aunt had where she lost her life and my 3 cousins lost their lives. And from that experience on, it was like really hard for me to just be in Philly. On top of just a few other things, a few years following that, my uncle, her brother, he was shot and killed in the road rage incident. It was a lot of just trauma, like just a lot of trauma that I think that I experienced in the city growing up. And some things that like, it's kind of like a hungry dogs keep running kind of thing where like you don't even really get to process some of this when it's going on. You just kind of like, especially for me as a kid, I didn't understand the concept of like, my cousin who was my best friend at the time, like I'll never see her again. My aunt who was my second mother at the time, I'd never see her again. Like you kind of just have to keep growing, keep learning, keep running, keep like experiencing things. And you don't really get a second to kind of step back and just look around and say like, oh, this is what happened and this is how I'm affected by this. Like a lot of those things I took with me, I didn't realize how much of a shift it created in my life until I was, maybe like reaching like 20, 21 years old. And like, I'm starting to just like peel back the layers and say, oh, this is what's actually happening.
I read a quote from you that said, a lot of us in Philadelphia, when you just talk to someone, you feel like there's a lot of trauma, a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of layers to that city that we've all gone through. And if we haven't gone through it, it's the trauma's been passed down. Yeah. Right. And we find ways to make our trauma sound and feel and look beautiful. But at the end of the day, it's still trauma. Exactly. When I read that, I was like, wow, because I'm watching someone like you that's transmuting that trauma and transmuting that pain into a greater purpose. And in fact, that's why all three of us are sitting here today with our own past and our own pains. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I always say like people, we're all the same. We all have pain and we're all just trying to find freedom from that pain. And a lot of people, like myself and Darren back in the day, would numb that pain through drugs and alcohol. Other people will hide in their work and get busy. Some will close their hearts. And then there's other people that find that greater purpose. So yeah, I just found that fascinating, and that awareness that trauma is passed down. And sometimes we don't even realize it, even if we haven't had it. It's that ancestral, that deep stuff that's just generational dysfunction more than anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I tried at the very earliest, I tried to just kind of understand the through lines of I guess like how trauma and how like pain affected people and when they resorted to things like you said, like drugs and alcohol. In my head, if I wasn't doing drugs and alcohol, then I wasn't taking my trauma out in a toxic way. I was handling it in a healthy way because I didn't go resort to drugs and alcohol. But I think my downfall was I used to take that trauma out on other people. And my relationships, and when I said we used to go outside and just try and I don't know, I wanted to be the bad kid. I wanted to be the tough guy in the neighborhood, but it was all because I had this feeling of misunderstanding that I felt like nobody could understand who I was, what I was going through, and what pain I felt. And so I had to inflict that pain on other people. But it didn't even process to me how toxic that was because I wasn't doing drugs or alcohol. I was, even in the moments when I was involved in the distribution of these things, it was like, I didn't even think into the process of okay, if this is not me doing it per se, then I can't be affected by this. I can't be actually dealing with anything. It was just, it was almost like you said, it's just kind of like, we all are just living in a world of trauma, and we're so deeply tied and connected to the trauma that it just seems natural to us.
Yeah, it's that saying, hurt people hurt people.
Exactly.
And if we don't heal our own wounds, then we're sure to inflict it mm-hmm. and bleed on other people, if you will. Right. If coming from somebody, maybe Darren, maybe I'm speaking for both of us, but I wouldn't ever understand how you didn't tap into drug and alcohol abuse just based on the trauma and the pain, because we all have pain, even though my pain might look different than yours, but just hearing your story and everything that you went through, I don't feel like mine was on a level of yours, yet I still went down that road. So how did you steer clear of drugs and alcohol?
I did. I will say I drank alcohol until I was 15 and it wasn't never anything related to pain. It was like, I just thought it was cool because everybody else is doing it. And it was you see everybody would come back to school we got drunk and we did such and such. So I used to try and do it, and it just tasted awful to me. And I remember one time I did it in California at one of my cousin's house, and I blacked out, woke up, didn't remember anything. And I was like, yeah, I don't like that feeling. I'm not really feeling that one. And as far as just any other thing that was just drug related, drugs in itself was so embedded into my culture growing up. My father played a hand in distribution of drugs. A lot of other family members, a lot of friends, a lot of people in the neighborhood. I seen how drugs had kind of just derailed the course of people's lives so much that I've always just kind of just been what's the word I'm looking for? Like tunnel visioned on this idea that I want to be a success story. I want to be a musician. I want to be someone great. And I was like, I feel like if I ever let my trauma, let my pain put me in this pocket where I start to kind of abuse drugs, then I may be taking away from the larger picture, the bigger goal at hand. And that was just always the thing that was hanging over me. That was like kind of keeping me in the right direction.
That level of focus from a young man is impressive to me, especially with all the things that are swirling around on the outside of you and on the inside of you, with the violence and, navigating the potholes of drugs and alcohol and everything else that's going on in Philly. Where does your music passion come into the picture? When did that begin? How did that begin to sprout?
Honestly, like music was before me. It was my aunts and uncles, my grandfather, my like everyone in my family played music, like played some sort of an instrument. So it just kind of became a thing that it just became a thing that was passed down from me. By the time I got to it, I was in the choir. My mom had me in the choir early on. So, after I realized I was like, oh, maybe I don't got the best singing voice, I started, just started messing around with the ideas of like, I would watch all the rap videos. Like, I hurry up, run back from school so I could turn on BET 106 in Park and watch all the rap videos. And like, that just became a thing where I was like, yeah, I feel like I could do this. I feel like this is something that I could excel and I could be like really good at telling my story, whatever the story was at the time. I was in like second or third grade. My story wasn't that impressive, but like, over time it just developed into like from a hobby to I was trying to get all of my friends around me. I was like, yo, I'll write your raps. Like, just trying to get everybody to be a rapper with me. So it wasn't just me. And then it just developed more and more into, just into a real life thing. It was like, for a while, honestly, especially when we were out, like, I remember, like as the street culture, like the neighborhood culture and music blended, you're talking about like the Lil Wayne era, like the mixtape era, like everybody at that point was rapping. Like I remember my homie Keem, his mom bought us a microphone. And we would just sit in his room and just like, we take turns, one person to press record and the other person to press record. And that was kind of like, that was my earliest memories of like, oh no, we could actually do this. We could actually make songs. We could actually, turn these into MP3s and download them onto our phones and show people. But it was always a thing that was embedded in my lifespan,
Can you take us through any moments that may have almost detoured you from wanting to pursue your passion? Was there any disappointments along the way from when you started to get on, like where you may have wanted to give up, or people were telling you that this wasn't the route? Like, are there any moments like that in your story?
Absolutely. I mean, you gotta understand, like I've been rapping since I want to say since second grade. I've been trying to put words together. So by the time I hit fifth grade, sixth grade, that was when I was like, yo, I can actually take this serious. At that point, I remember it was a moment when we thought we was going to get signed to state property in Rockefeller. Like we were kids and we like, yo, we going to be the next ones. Like there was so many of these versions. There was, even from, I had to go through the experience because I wasn't like the cool rapper that was just rapping about drugs and guns and like, a bunch of guns in the videos, bunch of money, bunch of girls in the videos. I had to go through the experience of like just being the quote unquote rapper and trying to explain to everybody that I'm a rapper and nobody actually cares. And, by this point you graduate high school, and everybody else is in college, got a job. And you just like, nah, I'm a rap. Trust me, it's going to work out. Like, and that was that was a real like awakening moment. For a while I was just sleeping in my car in a garage. You know what I mean? Like I was sleeping in my car in a garage behind a movie theater, and that happened. I want to say that went on for about like 2 months of just but these things. Yeah, I think there was a lot of these moments that just played out for a long period of time until that you finally get that breakthrough. And for now it's like a conversation on the internet where it's like, yo, it's an overnight success. And I'm like, overnight success took 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
It sounds like you've always, no matter what, we're going to fight for this dream and this vision of rap stardom. Like, where does that juice and where does that fire come from?
When I was a kid, my dad didn't let me quit anything. And I think that's a big root of like where a lot of it started from. It was like, yo, like, it don't matter if he put me in some sport that I never wanted to be. And I remember I did karate for like a year and a half just because I could not quit. Like, my dad wouldn't let me quit anything. I couldn't get up front of the dinner table until I ate like 85% of the plate. Like, it was just like, there was no quitting in the household. So at that point, even when it got like really, really tough, it was like, when I decided, okay, I'm not going to do anything sports related. I'm not going to do anything, like anything, I don't know, college related, so forth. It was like, I was so far down this path. It's like, if I quit at this point, I done shot myself in the foot for literally anything else in life that I want to do. It's like, I can't turn back the clock and go back to high school. And, I skipped so many big milestones in my life too dedicated towards this thing that it was almost like, yo, it has to happen. I don't know how, I don't know in what way, but it has to happen. And that was, it was just something I had fought for too long for me to give up on it.
But that lesson that your dad shared is like people not really understanding that fully in 2023. Like when things get uncomfortable, people want to go to something that is easier or like that's not going to have them in fear or in doubt. Like when really like that character quality of you.
No, I read this quote that was like, my friend Tatiana posted it, and it was like, what's the point of having faith if you're going to lose it when you need it most? And that's like my favorite quote right now. That's my favorite quote right now. It's like, what's the point if by the time when you actually need faith to kick in, anybody can have faith when it's easy. When you actually need faith to kick in, you just get rid of it. What's the point of having it at all?
Oof, I just posted a story on Instagram yesterday about that, where I believe faith relieves us from the burden of excessive responsibility. Like whatever your faith is, faith in God, higher power, universe, like in my beliefs are you better believe in something bigger and badder than you, because like when things do get tough and when things get too heavy, like who are you going to give it up to? Yeah. How are you going to really be able to trust the process and trust that life is always happening for us and not to us? And even some of the things that you went through, it's like there's lessons there. I'm thinking back to the lessons that your dad taught you, and even the lesson of I heard the story of your dad getting you the bike, and you were getting bullied, and your dad said do whatever it takes to bring that bike home. And it's almost like that lesson right there is another one of those don't quit lessons where no matter what happened, you always brought your bike home.
Exactly. And that's always, that was just my dad. That was my dad in any and everything. It was like, I don't care. I remember when he had me in boxing, I had to spar against somebody that was like 2 times my size. And it was like, well, look, this is what you asked for. Like, I don't, I'm like, yo, you sure it's nobody else in the gym? He's like, nah, listen, he the person you're looking for is right there. and that was always, it just kind of gave me that like fighter spirit, that fighter mentality, because that was exactly who he was. And he only wanted to train, like when I was a pup, he only wanted to raise like, pit bulls, bulldogs. That was like actually going to go in there and fight for whatever it was that you wanted. And no matter if you wanted to be a chef, you was going to fight for that, that food plate. If you wanted to be a trash man, you was going to fight for that trash can, whatever it is, like, so.
So when did you start to reap the harvest of that faith that you just told us about?
Honestly, there was a moment, the journey is never just a linear path. And, I'm pretty sure everybody can attest to that. It's never a linear path. The first moment when I really started to reap it, I remember I was in college. We had dropped a song called Stick Up. When I said like we had no money, I was in college. We bought a tripod to make the camera steady, one of my homies' cameras. And like, it was just like, yo, I had called like 10 homies, like, yo, you stand right here, you stand right here, you stand right here. You walk behind the cameraman, make sure he doesn't fall. And then we just shot this video on my friend's block. And the video went like it was like, whatever the version of viral was in 2015. It was like it popped up on YouTube, popped up on Tumblr, it went crazy on SoundCloud, et cetera, et cetera. And at that point, that's when I first started getting like phone calls from the labels, phone calls from the different companies, managers and everything. And then it started to feel real. It was like, oh, I'm getting interviews. Like people are asking me who I am. And, that was the start of something bubbling. That was the first moment where I felt like I can actually do this. This thing I've been telling people that I'm going to be one day. It's like, it's not as far as I thought it was. I remember we had got the call to go on tour that fall with Big Crit. It's like, yo, we're gonna go on tour for a couple of dates. And the first night, we're like I think 17, 18 years old. And Big Crit is like 35, I don't know. But like his audience is way older than I am. And I know the first night we went out there, we like hype jumping around. My DJ, he throws water in the crowd, misses the entire crowd, gets it all over the equipment. They kicked us off tour the first night. I'm just like, wow. Just a quiet car ride home back to Philly. Like, oh man, that was salty. And, you know, but we still had this, like, we was riding on the high. And then that following year, I got the phone call that my father, we had a show in Philly, and I was like, let me just go invite my dad. Me and him was like, we weren't on best terms. So I was like, let me go invite him to the show, just like let bygones be bygones. And when I pulled up, that was when I found out that he had cancer and he was going through chemo. It was like really bad, like, you know, and like in its terminal stages of like, you know, there's only a month or two left to live. And I just remember that like crashing, halting moment where like everything just stopped, you know, everything, like, because like we get so like I explained it to you, like that was the first moment where I remembered that I was real, if that makes sense. Like I've been so lost in this journey of I'm going to be a rapper one day, I'm going to be a star, I'm going to be a this or that. That was the first moment where it pulled me out of that world and it said, wait, I'm actually still just Armani. I'm Lee's son. I'm Donna's son. I'm this kid who grew up around here, and these things are happening in the real world that's actually affecting me. And this, like, I can't write a song that's going to fix this. I can't, like, you know, and yeah, like that was, so I took a step back just from everything music related. I took a step back from everything music related in 2016, and just like I wrote it out with him until he passed that June. And honestly, after that, just took a break from music and Philly, like all together. I moved out to LA. Moved out to LA for a couple of years from the end of 2016 up until I want to say like the end of 2018. I was just I just couldn't, like. It was like I don't know, a demon on my back kind of thing. Anytime I came back to Philly, it was this idea. It was like just something that was haunting me that just didn't allow me to be in the city and feel good or feel comfortable. Until I finally came back 2018, 2019. It was like, like, let me just kind of face my fears and stand on top of whatever it is that's like haunting me right now. And, and from there, I think from there on, was where things started to kind of, it's just these like, it's never a linear path, because I came back to Philly and everything was going good. The pandemic happened and we had a house fire. We had a house fire in 2020. And just when I'm thinking everything is cool, this house fire happens and they charged us for arson for the house fire. And it wasn't like, like there was no intentional house fire or nothing. It was literally like something called fire, and we called 911, whatever. They got it taken care of. Nothing, no real damage, nobody hurt, but they charged us for arson. And this is like pandemic time. So it's like, we don't know if we're ever getting out of jail. We don't know, like they're not giving nobody bail. It's like, it's just, so we got warrants out. I'm literally like, in my mom's living room, like anytime somebody rings the doorbell, I'm terrified. I'm like, I don't know who that might be. Like it was bad for like a month. We just trying to sort lawyers. Like, I'm like, I can't get pulled over. I get pulled over, they're gonna find out. Like, it's like, we're trying to figure this out for like a month, and we finally just had to turn ourselves in, go to jail. And I'm just thinking about it from the perspective of like, if I go to jail and like, I've built this like clean image for so long that like everyone just disappears. Everyone's like, you know how fickle these entertainment industries are. It's like, like nobody ever takes into account that you're a human who sometimes makes mistakes or things happen. Like, it's just like, you got a bad strike against your name. I don't really want to, so I'm just thinking about all of this, like, everything I've built for all of these years is just gone from one, somebody putting in a warrant out for me that doesn't even make sense to have, and so we went through that. We went through that moment, finally we made it out of the jail. And a year later, we went to trial or pre-trial for it, and they threw our case out. And that was like, They've been greener pastures ever since. Honestly. Like that was like the moment where I finally like just, started to soar because, at that moment, I really was like, we made a project called Things We Lost in the Fire. And it was really just like about taking that moment and the house fire I had as a kid and just making a piece of music, like almost like a journal entry that just kind of talks about the things that I've been running from for the past 10 years, past 15 years, and just really get it off my chest, just really speak about it, really just be vocal, be open, honest, and vulnerable about it, and get past that moment so I can just get back to making fun music, having fun with music, enjoying myself with the things that I'm creating. And that was right after that was the Billie Eilish moment. That was when we walked into that Billie Eilish era.
It's crazy how in order for you to get to the moment of, where everything takes off and everything starts to get good, it's like, it feels like there's a sense of, it doesn't seem like I can escape this pain. It doesn't seem like I can escape bad things happening to me. Like you talk about being real and you can't escape the pains of life as a human being. But for you, it's just like, did it feel like an avalanche? Like it's just like, it won't stop. Like, did you feel like that?
You know what? It feels like, I'm gonna make a football reference. It's almost like it felt like anytime something good happened, you just kind of had to plant your feet. You had to plant your feet and lean forward. You was like, yo, just kind of brace yourself for the impact. Cause something, I don't know what it is, but something bad is around the corner. Like, and like even to the effect right now, and I've been dealing with it a lot more amicably and just like a lot healthier of a way. Cause it's a slower process, but, I was fighting to just get this project out, just like, this Road to Casablanca EP just out the way so I can start working on the album. And the moment we finally do, I'm like, wow, I can finally woosah, breathe. I got the tour dates is done. Like I'm good. I can sit back for a second, relax. I get a call while we're on the press run. I get a call from my uncle that says, yeah, we just found out that Grandpa Lee has terminal lung cancer, and they're giving him a few months, or like up to a few months left. And I'm just like, God damn, like I can't. It's like, at what point does it like the good not come with the bad? And that's where I say it's like when these things happen, when you get these really high highs, like I just plant my feet at this point. I'm like, all right, I don't know what it is, I don't know where it's going to come from, but I know at some point, like there's something that if my feet aren't planted, it can knock me over. And if I'm not embraced, if I'm not ready for it, if I'm not ready for that embrace, if I'm not ready for that impact, then it can knock me over.
If we go back to, I just wanted to circle back about the conversations around your dad. What did you learn about death and maybe grief, the process of death, and then also maybe how you could have handled it better and what you learned in the process of actually processing the loss of your father?
My dad, for a lot of people who have their father in their lives, their dad is like the strongest person. Like as you're a kid, you kind of idolize and view your dad as like the strongest man in the world. He's Superman. And watching my dad have cancer, it broke a lot of spells. And like there were good spells and bad spells that I learned from him. And it was just like this idea of fearlessness, this idea of bravery, which he instilled in me. But I think I learned bravery in ways that weren't actually brave. And what I mean by that is like, he showed me in those moments of weakness, he showed me bravery from a different perspective, that it was okay to cry. It was okay to lean on someone. It was okay to have help, and it was okay to have family. And that was a new level of bravery that I learned just dealing with his transitioning. And when he ultimately transitioned, because, like dealing with something like the house fire in 2006, I went down a dark path because I didn't know how to channel that energy. I didn't know how to process it, and I didn't know how to express it. And one of the rawest things I could have did when my father passed was just cry, and it's like, and it sounds crazy, like, because like everybody, like has that emotion. But for me, it was just like, that was a hurdle, just to be able to cry, just to be able to let that expression out. And dealing with losing him, I got really, really comfortable with just the idea of crying, like being okay with crying, being okay with being expressive, being okay with not having a calculated response, but just having a raw emotional response when it comes to the people I love and the things I love, and how it's affecting me, and then that was a really, really, really sharp learning curve for me.
What did grief teach you? Did you ever go to grief therapy or counseling or get outside help through this process?
Yeah. So again, I think I did grief counseling, and then there was a level of therapy. There's a version of therapy that I did not that long ago. But even, and even just talking to doctors and talking to therapists, like having free conversation, a lot of it, what I always get back is like a lot of this is in you. And for me, what people would tell me is like, you're just an open book, you're an open mind, and you're just like an open thinker. Like, as long as you're able to put yourself in an environment where you can think all these things through and think all these things out loud, then it's not so much of like the external help that you really need. It's just like you being comfortable with like speaking it out loud. That was for me, that, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but for me, that was what was most helpful. Grief counseling, when I did it, was like, I want to say 7th grade. There was so much that was going on, like 7th and 8th grade. There was the house fire I had. There was like my sister's boyfriend. He had just got shot. There was I had a friend in Quad Air who had just got killed. And it just like, and there was like that was something, that was really like a I don't know, it was a weird thing for me because he was playing football. He was at practice, and I think somebody was tackling him, and their foot kicked him in the head too hard or something, and he the trauma killed him on impact. And those was even for that was weird for us. It was like he just died doing something that he loved. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do any, but it was in that moment, it was in that phase of my life where it was like, yo, you just got to pick it up and keep going. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, you just got to pick it up and keep going, pick it up and keep going. So much so that like all of that unrolled in like the processing of like external pain, just taking it out on everybody else. When I did grief counseling, I'm not sure if I even listened. I was a kid. I was just kind of like, all right, yeah, like this person is saying things to me, and I don't, maybe it makes sense or maybe it doesn't. I don't know, but I will say, I think honestly, sometimes I might even just be like, I'm very hard headed, so sometimes it might even just be a process of like me being a slow learner in a sense of like I'm just being a contrarian, like, just being like, just being a contrarian to whatever it is you're saying, even if you are making sense. And in like 3 or 4 years down the line, when I don't have you and I realize I need you, I'm going to remember everything you said, and it's going to make sense, and it's going to steer me in the right direction. And I think a lot of which, because when I turned off the, I want to be a hood kid, I want to be the street dude, whatever. When I turned it off, I have no interest in it. Like, it doesn't excite me. I'm not, like, it's not even I want to buy all these guns for protection or whatever. Like it's like, I turned it off. Like, it was done. And so, I think a lot of it was because I had these small seeds planted throughout the process that didn't really they didn't grow, they didn't sprout until years down the line. But when they sprouted, they finally when a moment like my father passing happened, all those things that didn't make sense then made sense now.
That's a beautiful realization to come to, man. And I love how you talked about you felt like you had to dig your heels in, right? Now that you're seeing a lot of your dreams come into fruition, there's abundance of blessings coming into your life. Do you still feel like you got to dig your heels in even though things are going great? Or have you escaped that mindset? Or are you still trying to find your way out? Like, how are you dealing with that now?
I mean, even with my grandpa was, that was recent. That was real recent. So like, it's a little bit of it. It's a little bit of digging my heels in, but it's, I don't know, like it's like I try not to like be so invested on this idea that something bad is about to happen, because it might stifle you and like create a cloud over all the good things that's happening. I kind of focus on like, okay, what's in front of me right now? What can I like? There's actually a quote that I seen, and like it's like an old episode of Oprah, I think, when my mom was watching it. I was a kid, but it was, this guy was selling a book. And I don't know why this one moment stuck with me, but this guy was selling a book, and he said, in his book, it was a quote that said, "You're only in control of two things in life. It's how you prepare for what's about to happen and how you react to what just happened." And so like a piece of me is always digging my feet in and saying, okay, I'm prepared for whatever is about to happen, whether it's good or bad. But at the same time, I'm reacting to all the good that is happening because it's just a lot of good, you know.
That's beautiful, man. What are your practices today as far as being able to stay in the present and not time travel or future trip too much or go back to the past? Like, what are the practices you're doing today to keep you there, to keep you present?
I think, you know, like what I learned a lot from, especially with my father passing, is how important family is, you know, and like just this, like family is quantified. Like you don't get another mom, you don't get another dad, you don't get like a lot of these things. So it's just like I value that so much now. I value like the importance of family, like what I now, you know, with this newfound career, with this money, whatever it is, like what I now can do for these people, because I don't, you know, like for me, I'm so, you know, jet set and focused, laser focused on what the goal is, that like I don't even think about, you know, if this person is dealing or struggling with this bill and this is something that I can easily help with, that literally it doesn't change my trajectory, it doesn't hurt me. Like I literally wouldn't even realize if you took it from me. Like I'm like, but that one little thing I can do could change somebody's entire day. I just try to do that as much as I can for the people that's around me. And I try to find little ways, little pockets to stay human. Like I'm at the end of the day, I'm just like a real big kid at heart. So like I might just ignore my phone for the whole day and watch Dragon Ball Z. Like I might, you know, like just little things that like make me still feel like in my rawest essence, I'm the kid that didn't, you know, that just did everything that he wanted to do and didn't like conform to whatever everybody wanted me to be.
I think staying human is so important, man, because we see so many people, rappers, athletes, like when they reach a certain level of success, it's like it leaves. It's like the humility may leave, like just the passion for creation or whatever their craft was may leave. And it's like they change almost. And it's like, how do we continue to achieve all of our goals and our visions that we have set out for ourselves, but don't change in the process, continue to still be ourselves, continue to grow and change in the ways that we need to change. But just foundationally who we are, we don't change in that way though. And that's it's beautiful to hear you say that.
Nah. I think it's just important as far as just like you just said, being like just humility, being a human, being present in this, because what you got to like what I understood and learned to understand is like this idea of the entertainment world is so how do I explain it? It's you know, like it's all about the facade. Honestly, like the success, the trajectory, the longevity of it is like, yo, did you buy this chain? Did you get this car? But like, you know, there's pages that can count up how much your outfit is worth. There's all about the facade, so much so that it's like you don't really get the chance. Like nobody's talking about the good somebody did. Nobody's you know, there's no trophy for, you know, for waking up on time and taking care of somebody. I don't know. Like if like it's a lot of times I might pay for the car behind me at Chick-fil-A. Nobody hears about this. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's all the little things that just make you feel human, make you feel real. If you just went to the park to like throw a Frisbee around, if I just sat outside, put my feet in the water, like these little things that like we completely throw away sometimes because getting a chain is cooler. Or like, you know, like I need 40 girls to pull up with me at this section of the club for I don't know. It's like none of these things really excite me that much.
Darren and I talk a lot about finding your center, right? I think we all have a center. We all get pulled off our center from the world's demand for the attention of our minds. And you two specifically, if we're talking us three, because of the platforms you have, you know, I know you mentioned that you'll often pay for maybe a family member's bill, but I think there's a balance between also setting boundaries where there's a lot of people wanting certain things from you. So where do you find that balance? Like, what are you doing to protect your mental health and your energy these days? And do you have practices like meditation or any movement practices that actually bring you back to your center?
Yeah, I go to the gym. That's like my meditation. That's my, you know, there's a certain, and Darren, tell me if I'm just making this up in my head, but there's like a certain level of, I feel like for me, it's on the bench. If I'm bench pressing, and I'm a small dude, I'm like 170, but like I can bench 225 now, like 225 a couple of times. But that idea of the weight of the world on me and I just pick it up and put it off of me is like, I feel like I could accomplish anything. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my real, that's like my real hyperbolic time chamber where I can kind of go in and just like, and be at peace, be centered, be training, be focused. But at the same time, when it comes to, like the demands, what I realized that family and people who aren't in this world don't understand. There may be a day where $30,000 comes in, and at the same time that day that 30,000 came in, it gets broken down. Like say it's for a show, that show amount got broken down to like maybe $8,000, and at the same time, just in other expenses, I spent about another 20,000. And like, we had to set this up for the sprinter. We had to set that up for security. We had to set that up. So like, 30,000 might have became, like negative 12,000. Like I went on tour for 2 months. And I made 25,000 and we spent about 60 just staying afloat, And so like, but the people who aren't in this world don't understand that concept. So I don't know, when somebody asks me for money, I'm broke. Like I'm holding out on that as long as I can. I was like, I'm broke. I'm super broke.
No, I can relate to both of those examples, especially like in the weight room. It's there's something that's trained in your mind when there's like something providing resistance to you and you're able to push through it and overcome it. Mm-hmm. Like it translates into your character. It translates into your everyday life. When you make that a habit of your life experience, that becomes your character. It gives you the strength to put your heels in the ground, like when it's healthy to, and when you have no other choice.
Exactly.
And anything difficult that comes, there's, like you said, just trying to stay afloat, or things aren't exactly where you want them to be. I push through because I don't quit. And there's also the family side and the money. It's like, you got to be willing to have that courage to say like, this isn't what it is. Like I love you in ways that I can. I'm gonna bless you, but yeah, it's like people see my name go across the bottom of the screen. It was like 3 years, 51 million. It's like that's really just an extension. It's like they put fluff on the contract. Like I'm really only making 12 this year, and then I'm out in New York now, so it's taxes on that. So it'll be like 6. Like the 51. My account right then and there, tax free. Like, but a lot of people don't. Don't understand that. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact. You see, and yours is 51. Mine's is like, I think I don't know what that number is and other people's is, but like mine's was I think it was like 6 million total or something like that. It was like I made like, and people think that 6 million line is like, oh, you have $6 million. It's like, nah, I got like a couple 100,000. And it's like, that was before, like you said, before taxes. And then I took care of this. I had to take care of that. Then I had to like, like it was things that we were still taking care of on top of just like, now my image is a lot higher. I have to pay for it. Like I have to look the part a little bit. I have to get a chain or get little things that just make me look like a rapper now. And there's like just the living expenses on top of that. I'm like, yo, you have no idea how much money I don't have, as opposed to whatever that number was you just seen on that press release. Like, cuz.
You guys both, well, Armani, you were talking about resistance, or Darren, you were too, with the working out. But I was curious, we've had a previous guest on named Stephen Pressfield. He wrote the book, The War of Art. And the whole book is about resistance and how resistance gets in the way of our creativity. So for both of you, because you guys both write music, how do you deal with resistance when it shows up as like writer's block, or, wanting to put pen to paper and you're just like not coming up with anything?
It's like, for me, what I learned for the most part when I'm having writer's block is really just a lack of experience. That's for the most part. And like sometimes it may be something different, but a lot of times it's like, I don't know what to write about in this environment or with this particular song because I'm not living it. A lot of times I have to just go outside. I have to go outside and like breathe air, like especially if like I'm writing a record that's like relative to I want people to enjoy themselves, have fun. I have to go outside, have fun, and just like, and just because nowadays when we're writing music, we're not writing something that's abstract art anymore. We're writing something that's relative to people. We're writing something that's the soundtrack to people's everyday lives. And we're writing something that's just like, relative, it's relatable, so we have to we almost have to go out and be the person that we want to put in this song so that the person who we want to hear this song can feel like they know that person, Yeah,
I feel like for me, it's like not trying to put like a a certain timetable on a project or an idea, but allowing the idea itself to dictate when it's done. Not have to rush to a result or rush to put something out to please somebody or to get that clap or that ovation. But it's really just like keep it in mind as much as possible that I love the creation aspect of this, so I'm going to pour into that as much as possible. And whenever I try to force something on a record, it ain't going. Like there won't be a line on the paper, but I feel like some of the best things are so simple and they come naturally and they just flow out of us because it's like that was meant to be for that moment. And sometimes that idea can come out instantly. Sometimes it may take months, but being okay with however long that process is and not trying to force my will or my desires or any type of greed I may have in my heart into the music, but just keeping the process as pure as possible, I'd say.
Absolutely. No, and I think that's like, and it's funny that like for me, I walk into this building and the question is, how do you write? How do you make music? Like, what's your creative process? And I'm like, I like the kind of mad scientist. Like, I like to just, we may make a beat in the studio together. I may come up with an idea, whatever. But when it's time to make the song, I want to be by myself. I want to be able to just like completely just free flow, just thoughts, like let everything out and just, like brainstorm with it. And a lot of times, because the industry is in such a microwave society thing now, like now it's just like, nah, just come down to the studio and just make a song on the spot. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, it's like, I'm not doing that. If you ask the producer to do it, he's not doing that. Like like they come in with like 5 to 10 beats that they all just made. They didn't make any of these beats on the spot. Why do I got to make something on the spot? Like, so I agree to exactly what you said.
Man, I'm sensing, or my intuition is feeling a little collab between you two. Armani, I don't know if you've heard any of Darren's music. Darren's humble to a fault, but he is crazy talented. I was just playing his music for some of my girlfriend's friends in Tulum this last weekend. And anybody that I play his music to, they're just like blown away. They're probably expecting something, and then what they get with the creativity and the quality in his lyrics
trash.
too.
Let's not get twisted. They expecting something trash.
another athlete trying to rap, but man, it's super talented. The both of you are.
No, absolutely. I definitely, I'm definitely in a collaborative world right now. So, and if it's as fire as you saying, you making Tulum music, then we definitely got some music.
Well, his music doesn't have a Tulum vibe, but I could see it. I could see some Tulum vibes in some of his music.
Hey, wherever it's meant to go, it's meant to go. But,
yes, sir.
Well, man, appreciate you coming on here today, man, and just being so open about your story and your journey, and just sharing wisdom and experience and strength with the people, man. It's awesome to get them to see this side of you. Because they see the turnt side, they see all the different records that you put out, but to see you're a human being and a great human being at that, man, it's been a blessing to talk to you, brother.
Man, it's been a blessing to be on the platform. I appreciate y'all both for having me on here.
Yeah, man, thank you. There's nothing greater for me to sit back and observe. You got an athlete, NFL football player, and a rapper, and we're not talking really about those things. We're talking about the real stuff, mental health. Taking care of ourselves, protecting our energy, and that's everything to me. So thanks for showing up and being real today.
Nah, I appreciate y'all. I had I even add on to saying that I had a guy. I was doing a session in California, like around the time when my father passed, and we were just kind of like I was telling him I just took a break from music. He was like, I just took a break for the same thing. I had my girlfriend just broke up with me, so I was kind of in just really depressed in my world and whatever. And I was like, oh man, I hope you kind of come out of that. He's like, well, what's going on with you? And I was like, well, my father passed, and I kind of just had to get away from the city. And he was like, oh, wait, no, like what I'm going through has nothing on what you got going on. But I told him in that moment, I realized we're dealing with the same volume of emotions. It's just two completely different stories, two completely different reasons, two completely different, backgrounds. But the thing that we're feeling is the same. What we're going through kind of binds us and puts us all in the same box. So I think, this was really beneficial and helpful for me. just to like, kind of create that coalition and say like, yo, whatever it is that I may have been dealing with, whatever it is that you have been dealing with in the past or will deal with in the future, like we're not that far apart from each other, and that we all go through things and we all just, have our comeback stories and get back on top.
Straight up, man. Again, thank you. Appreciate everybody joining us and listening to another episode of Comeback Stories. Hope you guys keep coming back. You know how we do. Comeback is in our DNA. Check us out anywhere that you download podcasts. Subscribe, leave a review, and check us out on the Inflection Network on YouTube as well. And we'll catch you guys next week.